Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Amir Karam, board certified facial plastic surgeon, founder and creator of Karam MD Skin. I specialize in facial rejuvenation, which basically means I help people look as young as they feel. And on today's episode of Skin School, we're gonna talk about a very common question, one that people have been chasing and wondering and trying to figure out for a very long time. And that is how to get rid of dark circles under your eyes. And if skincare can actually achieve that. So let's break it down and let's discuss this very important topic. The under eye region is a major focus for a lot of us, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we look at each other in our eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul, make good eye contact, all these different reasons why this region, this periorbital region, is a very important part of our faces and an important part of our face to look refreshed and youthful, not looking tired, etc. And I have a story that I want to share with you. And that is, years ago in practice, I had a 24-year-old linebacker for the San Diego Chargers, a football team here in San Diego. And this individual came to me and said, hey, look, I've got these dark circles under my eyes. My coach thinks I'm like looking tired all the time and I look like I'm burning the candle at both ends, etc. And he thinks that I'm like partying basically, and that's why I look so tired, but I'm really not. I'm really like all in on this whole football thing, and I really want to make sure my coach doesn't feel this way. So this was an off season and wanted me to address these dark circles. And you can see the social and interpersonal impact that dark circles make for an individual, because in this case, it sent the impression that this person's not sleeping, they're out like messing around and they're tired. And as a professional athlete, that's the wrong message to send to your coaches, etc. Right? So same thing goes professionally, same thing goes, interpersonally, etc. So you can understand why that aspect is so important. So getting it right and understanding what's causing this phenomenon is a very important aspect. And why is it important? Because some things you can be much more efficient with, and some things you just don't want to waste your time and money trying to no avail, right? I mean, that's the whole reason this YouTube channel exists, is to empower you and help you make good decisions for yourself. All right, so having said that, let's talk about dark circles. Let's talk about eye anatomy. Under the eyes, you basically have a very thin layer of skin, no fat between the skin and the muscle. Then right above the orbital bone, you have a layer of fat that lines the orbital bone. And this layer of fat gives a little bit of a cushion. And it also impacts the geography of this region. And I'll explain that in a moment. The skin is generally taut during youth. It's nice and firm, not a lot of excess skin. And the overall relationship between the eyelid and the cheek is one that's kind of smooth. It kind of dips in a little bit as it goes over the orbital bone, and then it comes into the cheek. Now, there are different scenarios. There are some genetic aspects where certain people just have more pigmentation underneath their eyes. The eyes are just darker. They've been like that since they were kids. They're like that as adults. It's just, you look at it carefully, it's not anything other than the fact that there's more pigment. That pigmentation makes up the skin. That is a very hard thing to change. Honestly, I'm not aware of any type of treatment that can directly address pigmentation, but that's a pretty rare form of dark circles in the general population. I know, in certain families, certain ethnicities, etc., you see this a little bit more, but overall, this isn't something that's being exacerbated by age. This is just the way it is. So in those cases, I would say topical use of skincare products that normally decrease pigmentation production aren't gonna be super effective here, because those pigments, it's just the color of the skin. Okay, so that's that. So if you're in that kind of situation, probably don't need to go trying a million different things to try to improve that. Now, there's a different type of scenario where the lower lid over time starts to lose volume. And when it loses volume, there's a tear trough that forms. It's kind of like hollow that forms in this area here. The hollowing, based on the light reflex, ends up making that area look depressed. And the depression leads to that area looking darker, right? Because it's a shadow now. The area above it on both sides along this valley, this what we call the tear trough, is deeper, so it makes it look more pigmented, but it's really not. It's just darker because of the shadowing. The second aspect that comes along with the same story is as you're losing volume, you're losing that fat pad, the skin and the muscle, which are tightly adhered, are now sitting on top of the bone because there's hardly any fat left in that area. And we see that a lot with aging. And when that happens, the dark muscle, which is the color of any muscle, it's kind of like a maroonish darker color, sitting on top of bone, and the light reflex that occurs with that creates a darker lower eyelid. When we're filled with fat under there, that light basically bounces through fat, optically creates a completely different look to that region. In addition to when we're fuller, we don't have that tear trough, we don't have that depression, and the light doesn't look like it's hitting a valley and as a result looking darker. So with aging, the volume change is definitely making a major impact in the appearance of darkness in that area. And this could start in our 30s, it could start in our 40s, but at some point it obviously happens. Then there's another component, and that is a condition called dermatochalasis or blepharochalasis, depending on, it doesn't matter. The point is, it's excess skin. Excess skin on the lower eyelid, what ends up happening is, if you just think about this region, if you have twice as much skin with any level of pigment that skin has, and it's laying on itself, well now concentration of pigment per centimeter or whatever, it's gonna be like double or increased by a certain amount. So that skin is gonna appear darker. So you take this all into consideration and you're like, okay, what's happening anatomically is we're loosening up here, we're getting a hollow, there's anatomic reasons for you to be dark. So the treatment for that ends up becoming surgical. You do a skin pinch to remove the excess skin, and I think I've done several videos on the treatment of lower eyelid, aging. Those definitely would be interesting for you to check out and see before and afters, etc. But the extra skin is removed through a skin pinch. The volume is added in my practice through a fat transfer. I do fat transfer to replace the volume. I usually don't use filler here, but it can be, but just use small amounts if you're gonna go down the filler route. And then that's as good as it can get. That's literally as good as it can get. If it's, for some reason, you've got some pigmentation there from sun damage, etc., it's like a dot or two, of course, skincare can help with that. But generally speaking, skincare is not going to touch what I just talked about because this is not a skin pigmentation issue related to sun damage or melasma or something like that. So very, very important to know. So before you go out and buy expensive eye creams that promise to, take the dark circles out and this and that and the other thing, just know that all of the powerhouse ingredients like retinols, vitamin C, all that stuff, all of it can improve pigmentation that's caused from sun damage or melasma, but that's not, generally speaking, dark circles under the eye. That's usually, from what I just described, hollowness and excess skin, or even puffiness under the eyes that, again, creates even bigger shadow under the eyes as well. So when it comes to that, you're better off doing a surgical procedure than you are messing around and chasing all these different non-surgical therapies for that particular problem. But you gotta get the diagnosis right. So back to the story of our football player, same equation that we put into play here. He had puffiness under his eyes, did a blepharoplasty, put fat transfer in, cleaned up his eyes, looks refreshed, no longer tired. We've done this on a lot of young people, unfortunately, that have just genetic propensity to this direction and have had beautiful, beautiful results with it. But it's the same result as you get with somebody who's older as well. It's the same concept. So again, answer to the age-old question, does skincare help with dark circles? Not really, unfortunately. You gotta get the diagnosis right, you gotta get the evaluation right, and then approach it the right way. And in some cases, there's nothing to do. So don't go out with this expectation that these expensive creams, for example, are gonna suddenly change everything. They probably will not if you follow these guidelines to a T. All right, folks, I hope that helped. It's, like I said, it's a very interesting and important topic, one that comes up a lot, and I'm happy to be able to shed some light on it and give you some perspective, and I hope that helped. And like I said, follow along and watch a few more videos on eye rejuvenation, etc., because I think it'll give you even a better perspective on those isolated topics. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you haven't already, subscribe. I got tons and tons of content coming down the pipeline. Our playlist is filled with good topics. Also, if you want to get our newsletter to come to your email directly, the Karam MD Journal, I write it myself every single week, so I'd love for you to sign up for that. The link is down below. and send it along to some friends and family to, again, empower and elevate their understanding of this entire, very generally speaking, confusing topic. And it's my pleasure to share this with you all. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them below and I would answer as many of them as I possibly can. Thanks so much, Dr. Amir Karam.